Hey everybody, welcome back to My Wings of Refuge. I'm so excited today because we're going to make something really easy, really delicious. It's kind of fun, but it's also super good for you. Does that not sound wonderful? It's actually sauerkraut. So this here is my sauerkraut. And as you can see, it's getting a little low. I tend to shake it, so it may be harder to see. But it's only about half full. And so for me, it is crunch time. I have to make some more sauerkraut before this is out. So the only thing you need today is a head of cabbage and some real salt. This here is natural sea salt. What you don't want in your salt for this recipe is iodine or any additives. Usually some salts have like an anti-caking additive. So check your ingredients and make sure you are using just real pure salt. And so that is all you're going to need. That in a jar with a lid. I'm going to use some canning weights. You don't necessarily have to do that. I'll show you what you can do if you don't have them. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to take a couple of these leaves off the top and we want to save them. Well, if you can get them all solid. This one's not participating. I might have enough there, but I'm going to get another one. This will be enough. We want to cut out a section later, the sides of our jar. So you want to get these leaves off as whole as possible. You can slice or cut this any way you like. But we don't need the core. Save that for the chickens. I like to cut mine up in chunks, and then I'm going to toss it in my food processor. And then I'm just going to chop it a little bit in there. You might have to do it in batches. I love this texture of it. Okay, so now we have all of our cabbage ready. And the only other thing we're going to add now is our salt. I am going with 4 teaspoons of salt. Okay, that's it for ingredients. Are you ready for the next step? Okay, for this next step, this is why I say it's a little bit on the fun side, because now all we're going to do is massage it, stir it up really good, and we're going to kind of let it sit for about 15 minutes. We just want to really incorporate the salt into all of it really well. And the salt is going to help bring out the natural juices of our cabbage. Right now we're mainly wanting to massage it in and make sure it's thoroughly incorporated. Trying to save every bit of this goodness. I don't want any of it to go to waste because it is so yummy. Since we have stirred in all of our salt really well, we're just going to let this sit now for 15 minutes and then we'll come back and do some more massaging. Okay, so it has been 15 minutes and we've let that sit here for a minute so those salts can kind of soak in. Now we're going to massage it, and we're going to let it create as much of its own natural juices as possible, because then we're going to pack it in our jar and we're going to fill it as full as possible. And then what we want to happen is we want enough of that brine or that liquid that's left over to fill or cover the top here. You see already there's quite a bit of liquid in here. So I want to tell you a little story. For Thanksgiving, we had our oldest son, his wife, and our grandkids over for Thanksgiving dinner. Our youngest son couldn't get home from Virginia. And so we had our Thanksgiving dinner. It went lovely. And after dinner, I was fixing my daughter-in-law, or she was fixing her a glass of kombucha when she saw my sauerkraut in the refrigerator. And so she, being more of a connoisseur of sauerkraut, unlike myself, wanted to try homemade. And so she tried it and she loved it. Now, she loved it so much, I'm going to tail off on her just a little bit. She loved it so much, she went and got a plate and served a little helping of it and ate it all by itself. So see, I thought I was the crazy one, and apparently I'm more normal than I thought, because I often will crave it and we'll go get a little plateful and have it all by itself. When you ferment foods, it brings out the lactic acid, and they are loaded with beneficial vitamins. They're high in B vitamins, but also A and K, and but the digestive health, oh my goodness, it will help aid in digestion. And you want good digestive health, because that is where a lot of illnesses and diseases begin, is in the gut. So how about eating more fermented foods? Okay, so we got a good bit of moisture going here. Just going to give this a little bit more massaging, and we'll be ready to pour it in our jars. It's a good amount of liquid. It's what we want. So, I like to use a wide mouth jar. It's just easier to get everything in there and get it out. Plus, we're going to use weights. So even though everything was clean when I put it away, I like to make sure everything is washed again, because you want to make sure everything is very clean. You don't want to allow any opportunity for bacteria to get in. Okay, I just like using my little funnel because it's a little bit easier. I am going to use my hands here. I wash my hands constantly. And so I'm just going to get a handful, and I'm going to put it in our jar. And I'm just going to try to put every bit of that yummy goodness in there. And because we have the wider mouth, we can easily press this down. And then we're going to pour the rest of whatever we might have. There we go. And I like to just keep pressing and bring all those juices to the top. Okay, so if you remember when we started cutting up our cabbage, I had you save 2 of the leaves off the outer edges. We want to get those. And we want to cut a circle. We want to cut a circle. You can use the lid to just kind of trace that out. It doesn't have to be perfect at all. Like so. And then we're going to place that in here to hold our cabbage down. Because you don't want little pieces of your cabbage floating up to the top, allowing air to get to it, because that's when bacteria can get in. So this will help hold down the little bits of cabbage. You might have a couple of strays floating to the top, but you won't have all of it. Okay, so we've got that pressed in. Now we want to use our weight. Now, maybe you don't have weights, maybe you don't want to purchase anything for your first time making sauerkraut, and you don't have to. So if you have these really tiny jelly jars like this here, you can actually fill it with water, and then you can put this right down inside there and push it down, and this will serve as your weight. So you can use lots of different things, but I love to ferment. I plan to ferment a lot, and I like to keep my weights busy. But I'm going to put that right in there. You can see it fit in. It covered our cabbage very well, and it's ready to go. Now I had to do 2 leaves because I have had enough of a large cabbage before that I had enough to put in another jar, and so like I said, I don't ever want any of it to go to waste. So if you ever have enough left over or more to put in another jar, then you want to have another piece of your cabbage leaf. Okay, so all we do now is, if you don't have these, you can use the white lids. This is my fermented chicken feed. But you see the little white plastic lids? Those don't airtight seal. So you can actually use a lid like that because it will allow it to burp a little bit. I wouldn't advise using metal lids and metal rings because they could rust on you. And they're going to be more airtight. These here work fantastic. In the little nipple part here, you see, there's a little opening, crosshair opening, so that it only opens if you squeeze it, or as the air needs to escape, it can push on and the air can push out. So I'm going to put that on. They make lots of different fermenting lids, and they all work a little bit differently. Some of them have the water valve in them that you put water. It's like a little airlock thing also. But the least amount of air that gets to your batch here, the better, because air can encourage bacteria growth. Now you want to store this in a cool, dark place. Now, a little bit of troubleshooting, something that you might run across, because I hear so many people run across this and think their batch has gone bad. Now, if you notice a white film growing over the top of your liquid, don't be afraid and don't throw it out right away. Chances are it is a type of yeast. A lot of times that happens if your jar has gotten a little too warm. By keeping it on my counter here, by doing a lot of cooking, especially if I did a canning project and there's lots of steam and heat and humidity, it can cause that to happen. And so by keeping it in a cabinet, it will help. But should you notice a white film over the top, do not despair and don't throw it out. You can skim that white. It's usually milky, a little sticky off the top, but when you open it and smell it, it will not smell bad if it's this yeast. It should still smell vinegary. And that is how your batch here should smell. It should smell like cabbage. Cabbage has its own unique scent, but as it ferments, it's going to smell more like a vinegar, a clean vinegar smell. If it were to develop mold, typically it's going to be white fuzzy, and it even could be bluish or black and have other colors in it. but oftentimes it's fuzzy and it will usually smell bad. And so that you would definitely want to throw out. But this yeast that I'm talking about, and I have a picture of a batch that I had once before that I will show you. Wipe it out, spoon it out. It was not a problem. If you eat that white yeasty part, it will not hurt you if that's what it is. But again, it's kind of milky, a little sticky. You'll see it accumulate around the edges, and that's probably your yeast. Okay, so how long before we can eat this goodness? It's kind of up to you. As long as it's not molded, it's good for you. It's just a matter of, and similar to kombucha, the longer it goes, the sourer it will be. And so I actually love mine at 2 weeks. Some people wait for 4 weeks. That is strictly up to you, but I encourage you on your first batch to taste it. You can taste it at the 1 week mark. You can taste it at 2 weeks. I like to use sometimes my little canning labels and put it on here with a date, because I am making things every day, or put it in your calendar, because I can easily get mixed up and can't remember what day I made it. And so by putting a date on there, you'll know. And then taste it at the 1 week mark. Taste it at 2 weeks. And if you think it can go a little bit longer, wait for 3 weeks. So whenever you like it, right where it's at, then all you have to do is move it to the, I take this lid off and I put a plastic lid on and I move it right straight to my refrigerator. It will last months in the refrigerator, but let me tell you, it won't last that long because it is so good. When you start tasting it, trying it, and start eating it, this jar is going to go so fast. So make lots, because it will never last that long in your refrigerator because you're going to be devouring it. But if you don't, and if you're trying to learn to like it because of its health benefits, then it might last you a little bit longer. It will still continue to ferment, but incredibly slowly in the refrigerator because of the colder temperatures. So put a lid on it, put it in the refrigerator, it'll be fine for months, okay? You'll know when it goes bad because you will see the fuzzy mold, okay? And so otherwise, eat it up. It's delicious and wonderful for you. And you might be surprised, your children might like it too. I hope you enjoyed today's video, y'all. Have a great week. Stay safe out there. Those COVID numbers are climbing crazy. So work on digestive health and keep taking care of yourself. Get plenty of rest, y'all. And most of all, pray. Prayer is always the best medicine. Have a great week. See you next time.